milliards de possibilités.
Hi. Hi. Welcome to Paris.
Thank you.
First question, because I'm very impressed to be in front of you, because when I was a kid, your name was like a legend, like because I was playing video games, and I saw you in video games, you know. And
now, do I look like somebody from video games?
No.
Or just much older?
No,
That's different.
How does it feel to be considered as the best of all time?
Le champion d'échecs, Garry Kasparov, a en effet remporté sa première partie contre Deep Blue, pourtant capable de calculer de 100 à 200 milliards de coups en 3 minutes.
People, always looking for, someone to be called the greatest, whether it's in football or whether in ice hockey, in basketball, or in chess. But, I was very happy with what I did in chess. I had enough glory in my life with my titles that I won, so I don't need this unofficial one. Though again, I'm always happy that my popularity and my notoriety helps to promote the game, because I think it's very important the game, gets what it deserves.
Rappers are always saying, I'm the best rapper of all time.
Think not. Why be a king when you can be a god?
And you're saying the opposite, so you're the best of all time.
I'm not saying the opposite, I'm just, saying that this is, as somebody who won many official titles, real titles, world championship matches, Russian national championships, chess Olympiads, I don't need, just to to promote myself as the best player of all the time, because, when you're talking about, rappers, they have to compete for this, for the public attention. So I had plenty, and now I'm trying to invest this capital of my global notoriety to make sure that the game of chess is being promoted adequately.
And Muhammad Ali was always talking about the pain of being taken away from his roots.
Since I've reached a little fame in boxing, most people want to know where am I from and where did I get that name, but really I haven't really checked on it, so I see that I'm going to have to go look into it.
You'll have to look it up.
And that's what you're living too.
There's similarities and there are differences. So this is the, I'm actively engaged in a fight for human rights and democracy, not only in my country, Russia, but also worldwide. I'm a chairman of Human Rights Foundation based in New York. I was honored to follow the footsteps of great Czech dissident and a political leader, Václav Havel, who was the first chairman of this organization. Since I'm retired, I'm spending a lot of my time in writings, in speaking, in appearances, to promote this agenda. I hope that I'm fairly successful, because I managed to adjust my voice to make sure that I can speak on behalf of those who are fighting for the right causes.
How do you explain that the chess is a game which is very popular, like in the hip-hop culture, in the ghettos, like we have always people playing in the streets?
New York is home to over 70% of America's chess-playing population. The game is growing in popularity, increasing 200% year on year.
Or even in Africa right now.
I wouldn't call chess as a popular game in the ghettos, because it brings us to the bigger question that many people ask me today. Why chess was so popular 40 years ago when Fischer plays basketball.
Bobby Fischer est en Islande pour une partie contre le champion du monde, Boris Spassky.
La tension est ici à son comble avant ce que l'on présente déjà comme le match du siècle.
Than today. And the answer is, it is actually more popular today, much more popular, but the popularity and the visibility of the game depends very much on the environment. In 1972, when Fischer played Spassky, or in 85, 86, 87, when I played Karpov, the options for a viewer, for a fan, they were quite limited. So we didn't have, cable TV in the 70s. We didn't have internet in mid-80s. Now you have to compete with the video games, with, with mobile phones, with everything. So chess has to move further. And I hope that, by the way, this tournament in Paris would help chess to to get the prestige the game deserves.
Tell me about Africa.
It's a very interesting continent for promoting the game of chess. Since, you know, Kasparov Chess Foundation has been engaged in different places. We started in America, we had, you know, activities in Europe, in Asia, in Latin America. But Africa was the most interesting and I would say, you know, explosive. Because what I discovered by traveling across the African continent, and I visited 22 African countries. I mean, not so many people had such a record. So I have information firsthand by, you know, speaking to people on the ground and actually seeing the response for our initiative, which is, you know, to use chess as a tool to help kids, especially from these very, you know, poor areas, to get a taste of education. Because in Africa, you know, the first step is not to teach kids something, but actually to convince them that education has a value. Injecting this kind of appetite for education is very important, and chess serves this purpose perfectly. We saw tremendous effect on kids from across the continent, both for the, you know, just improving their attention and the drop of absentee rate, but also just improving their cognitive skills, you know, just to understand, you know, things that, you know, they are simply missing when they are facing the challenges of modern education.
Après seulement 4 coups, il y a plus de 300 milliards de possibilités.
Can we talk about politics and your improvement?
Be my guest.
You said something really interesting, because when you were talking about the situation in France, you were worried about Marine Le Pen and the way she was talking with Putin.
You are the French citizen. You should worry, you know, more than I do, that one of the rising political stars here with a very aggressive views that are not necessarily shared by the majority of French people, and many of these views are contradicting the values of the French Republic, is just being, you know, like you may say, a bedfellow, political bedfellow of a Russian dictator, who clearly is looking for allies like her. And it's not just, you know, it's an exception, because Putin is the best friend of ultra-nationalist groups, you know, in Europe, also hard-left groups as well. Because Putin is looking for any ways that he can find and fund to weaken European Union. Actually, they are even opponents of the very concept of European Union, of European unity. So it seems to me that, you know, here in France, you know, you have a problem to solve, since, you know, Marine Le Pen, she has been gaining in the polls, and more power she gets, you know, more difficult for Europe will be to oppose Putin's aggression.
Can you feel free to say that Putin is a dictator? That's why you call him.
That's why I live outside of Russia. You know, as I say, I live in New York, so, and I feel absolutely free. He's a dictator. Putin is in power for 60 years, and he has no intention of leaving power. So in my book, it's dictatorship. So when elections are just, you know, are not having any element of surprise, and you know in advance that it will not be moved by any election process. So that's, you know, that's one of the best definitions of dictatorship.
Мы победили в открытой и честной борьбе.
And of course, you know, we can look at what's happened to his political opponents. Many of them are behind bars, many like me outside of Russia, and of course, few of us, including my late dear friend Boris Nemtsov, simply being killed.
In France, we've been attacked by ISIS many times. Who do we need to scare more, ISIS or what's going on in Russia?
This is another big mistake that is being made. Some people do it consciously, politicians mainly, and some general public unconsciously. It's a big picture. You know, we live in a world that is globalized. You know, you understand that the economy is globalized. You know, you make a move, you know, here, and it could affect your business in China. Same with geopolitics. What Putin did, and he keeps doing, is he created an atmosphere where ISIS, other terrorist groups, Iranian mullahs, and other dictators, they can thrive. Because Putin has been destroying the rules and the environment where, you know, people knew that, you know, they were protected by agreements and treaties. What he did in Crimea was total destruction of the order that guaranteed peace and stability in Europe since 1945.
C'est par la mer que Vladimir Poutine entre à Sébastopol pour sa première visite depuis que la bannière russe flotte sous les ailes du célèbre aigle de bronze.
his invasion of eastern Ukraine again demonstrated that he didn't care, and he could just, he would go anywhere, if he thought it would serve his interest now.
L'année 2014 restera dans les annales, comme l'année qui a vu les peuples qui vivent ici décider avec fermeté d'être avec la Russie, confirmant leur fidélité à la vérité historique et à la mémoire de nos ancêtres.
And what he did in Syria, and he keeps doing in Syria again, it's a demonstration that there are no limits for his involvement in different places. And ISIS, it's a very much product of this situation. If you don't have Putin today, ISIS is a problem you can manage. Yes, it's not an easy one. I'm not telling you it's an easy one. But we had Al-Qaeda, then we'll have ISIS. There will be many offsprings of Islamic radical terrorism. But, they need a right atmosphere. It's like, in order to grow, they need this like a poisonous, fertilized ground. And unfortunately, Putin keeps creating it for them.
I'd like your point of view about what's going on for the Muslims all around the world. Like every time like ISIS is striking somewhere, there is some hate and some tension with the Muslim people everywhere. And the economic crisis is making tension bigger and bigger.
It's a long story. Obviously, it's a very challenging moment for Muslims around the world because they have been hijacked by non-democratic and the terrorist forces. And again, it's just we saw this algorithm in many places. In Pakistan when you had this very authoritarian government, a military dictatorship, as the last shield against Taliban terrorists. And we saw the same algorithm in Saudi Arabia, where the monarchy tried to pretend that it was the only defense against terrorists. They created an atmosphere where the Islamic radicalism could actually gain ground. When we look at, for instance, the rule of Mubarak, he always attacked liberal opposition, because when Mubarak collapsed, the only force capable of taking over was Muslim Brotherhood, because it's just dictators always want this paradigm. It's us or somebody who is much worse. I'm happy to see that partial success. I think it's the Arab Spring was a good start. I think people underestimated the importance of that, and the passion for young people in the Muslim world actually to live under the rule of law and to find a way to combine the Islamic values and democracy. But unfortunately, as you point out, the economic crisis makes it easier for terrorists and for dictators to attract the Muslim youth, with some crazy reactionary ideas.
I would like people of my generation in France to understand something about you, is that since you were a kid, you were like the proud of the Russia. You were
Soviet Union. At that time was Soviet Union.
Yeah, of Soviet Union. Like you were hanging the flag and...
Look, I played under Soviet Union. I had my own reservations from early days, about the Soviet regime, but I played under Soviet flag, I played under Russian flag.
But how do you explain that this kid could end to jail?
Зачем я не понял? Подождите. А за что меня задерживаете? За что меня задерживаете? А за что меня томаки?
What happened to you?
That's, that answers your question about Putin's dictatorship. So dictators, they don't tolerate peaceful protest. But today, for the same things, actually for doing nothing by protesting, people can end up in jail for 5 or 10 years. You may say that I was arrested at a time when, regime was semi-vegetarian. Now just, it eats people alive.
But how does it feel to be in jail for a guy like you?
It's not the most pleasant experience, but, probably, you have to probably go through some different kind of experiences in your life. It was challenging because I was the man who just who fought for his own country. Was defending the honor of the country and being arrested by these thugs. It was challenging, but still, as long as I could feel that my presence in Russia helped the cause without, endangering my life, I fought. But in 2013, it was very clear that, I wasn't, the danger was too high, and I had no choice but to leave the country.
And is it by the fear of the danger that you refuse to eat in the jail?
It's this, when people are in jail, they are not, they react spontaneously. And, for me, it was quite a shock. Don't forget, it was 2007. I was the first one who was arrested, and put in jail for just, protesting in the street, but just doing absolutely nothing, that was illegal.
Tell me if it's a stupid question, but I'm scared about you. Do you think that some stuff that you said in this interview could make you kill?
Am I in danger? Probably. So that's why I live outside of Russia. I don't visit countries where I could be in danger. So hopefully France is not one of them. My family is very much concerned about my safety. My mother lives in Moscow still. But my wife, my kids were in New York. But even in New York, we know there's no guarantee that you're protected against a KGB dictatorship. But look, there's certain things you do because you have to do it. It's kind of moral duty. And Boris Nemtsov did it in Moscow. So I think I have no other choice but to sort of continue this fight from outside.
Forgive my language, but you have balls.
If I believe this is right, I stand for it. And I'm 53, so I'm not young. I'm not even middle-aged. So though I still have plenty of energy. But there's certain things you learn when you're a kid that stay with you. And I saw people taking much greater risk. And because they believed in something. And for me, Sakharov, Bukovsky, Gavel, they were not just heroes from another planet. So those are people that changed our lives because of their heroism, because of their stand. The communism collapsed. Everybody has to do something. And from early days, I followed the motto that my mother put on top of my bed: "If not you, who else?" And I know exactly what I can do. Maybe it's not too much, but it's enough to make a difference. So I have been very busy making the difference at the chessboard, and now I'm proud that because something that I'm doing now is also making a difference.
Your book is called "Winter is Coming." It's a reference to Game of Thrones.
I know this is hard for you, but winter is coming.
You had that show?
Oh, I read the books even,
Yeah.
There's both the books, and I'm a big fan of the show. And I thought the title was a perfect reflection of the warning, because this is exactly what it meant in the book. Winter is coming. It's a threat of alien invasion. Debt coming in. This winter, you may call it geopolitical winter, is not something that is climate connected. So we could be prepared. And if we're prepared, we can actually make it shorter and we can defend against it. If we're not prepared, we could be really dead. So same as here, my warning is about winter, geopolitical winter that is coming because of the danger from Putin and other enemies of the free world. And it's about being prepared, because I think the free world let down its guards since 1991, and nobody, understood how dangerous could be a resurgent of Russia under Putin's dictatorship. Hopefully now this understanding is slowly getting in. But also, Winter is Coming was a reflection of my, thesis that history doesn't end.
Who is the Mad King?
Mad King is dead, but I'm afraid now just Putin in the book. But I'm afraid Putin is reaching out the stage where we can expect anything from him. So I don't know whether anybody in Kremlin is a Kingslayer.
When you hear them whispering Kingslayer behind your back, doesn't it bother you?
Last question. The show is called Clique, and what's your definition of a clique?
Clique, I would immediately come up with two things. One for me from my childhood, clicking the clock, because you push the clock. When I was a kid, we played with mechanical clock, and it was a click. So and now it's a click of a mouse because we play. So it's somehow it's both connected to chess, though. Click of a mouse could have a broader definition, but it's about the physical action, clock or mouse.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure to talk with you.